What's up, football fam? Buckle up because today's episode is loaded with draft buzz, hot takes, and some serious insight if you're a fan of the Philadelphia Eagles. With the NFL draft just 2 Thursdays away and set to unfold in Green Bay, the excitement's building fast. And trust me, if you bleed midnight green, you'll want to stick around for this one. We're going to be covering every single round of the draft live, breaking down picks as they happen, and sharing all the behind-the-scenes chatter, especially the moves our Eagles might be making. Now, before diving into the big stories, I've got a question for you. Think of it as our pre-draft poll. 4 names keep popping up in Eagles draft simulations, and fans are fired up about all of them as potential picks at the 32nd overall spot. So here's the question. If you were running the war room, who would you take with that 32nd pick? Would it be Malachi Starks, James Pierce, Walter Nolan, or Mason Taylor? Drop your initials in the comments. MS, JP, MN, or MT, and let's see where the fan base stands. Now, on to some recent buzz that got the timeline talking. According to a reliable source, the Eagles hosted Malachi Starks for a pre-draft visit. For those who don't know, Starks is considered a top 30 talent across the league, and word is Philly might have to trade up if they really want him. From my perspective, to lock down Starks, the Eagles would probably need to climb somewhere between picks 22 and 27, maybe even earlier, because there's a real chance he's off the board before we get to 32. And honestly, I wouldn't be shocked. The kid's a baller. Let's talk measurables. Starks stands at 6 feet tall, weighs in at 197 pounds, and is just 21 years old. Physically, he checks the boxes. But it's not just about size. His football IQ is off the charts. He's incredibly versatile on the field, lining up all over and logging over 270 snaps in the nickel. That tells you he can play man-to-man coverage, roam in zone, or even step up near the line. He's smart, quick, and instinctive. You want someone who's ready to contribute from day one? Malachi Starks is that guy. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Starks is one of my favorite prospects for Philly in this draft. Why? Let me break it down. Aside from his solid frame and athleticism, he's got elite change of direction skills, which is huge for safeties in today's game. Even though he's still young, he's battle-tested with 42 starts in 43 college games. He's explosive in coverage and disciplined in his reads. He doesn't just react. He diagnoses plays before they unfold. That's rare. That's leadership-level awareness. Now, let's be real. He's not the strongest tackler out there. That's the knock. But here's the thing. His vision and instincts usually get him to the ball carrier before brute force is even needed. That kind of anticipation can't be taught. And when you factor in that the Eagles have a need at safety after moving on from a key piece of last year's defense, well, the fit becomes even more logical. Oh, and yes, he's another Bulldog. Philly's been all in on Georgia players recently, and for good reason. These guys show up ready to compete, and Starks is no different. He could immediately step in on special teams while working his way into a starting role. Looking at last season alone, he appeared in 14 games and recorded 77 tackles for loss, for pass breakups, and an interception. That kind of stat line tells a story. He's not afraid to get physical near the line, and he can still make plays in the secondary. Now, let's dive deeper into those coverage numbers. Starks was targeted 52 times and allowed 34 completions for a total of 453 yards. Yes, there were some explosive plays allowed, 2 touchdowns in coverage, but let's not overlook the 4 pass breakups and a quarterback rating of 97.7 when thrown at. For a safety in a tough SEC schedule, those are respectable numbers. In fact, his 2022 season was even more impressive. 68 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, 9 pass breakups, and 2 picks in 15 games. The year after that, 52 tackles, 10 pass breakups, and 3 interceptions. You want consistency across multiple seasons? Starks has it. Some of the film might be a little messy in spots, sure, but the talent and the effort leap off the screen. In the right system, with the right coaching, there's no doubt in my mind this guy could thrive at the next level. And I'm telling you, if the Eagles end up grabbing him, even if it takes a trade up, I'll be fired up. Here's something else you should know. The Eagles put a ton of stock into their pre-draft visits. It's not just about watching tape. They want to meet these guys, look them in the eye, get a feel for their mindset. And that philosophy has paid off. Since their current GM took back the reins in 2016, 7 of their 9 first-round picks had pre-draft visits with the team. That's 77%. That's a real trend. Think back to 2017. The Eagles picked a pass rusher from Tennessee. He had a pre-draft visit and went on to break a sack record in college. In 2018, no first-round pick because of trade. The next year, 2019, Philly picked a player from Washington State instead of taking a top-rated offensive tackle, and he didn't have a pre-draft visit. Spoiler, that pick didn't work out so well. But in 2020, they brought in a guy for a visit, picked him over a wide receiver that later exploded in the league, and that sparked plenty of debate. The next year, pandemic hit. No visits allowed, but they still nailed their pick with a Heisman-winning wideout. 2022, pre-draft visit. 2023, 2 Georgia defenders visited and were both picked in round 1. In 2024, the Eagles didn't even have to trade up. One of the top corners in the draft fell to them at pick 22, and guess what? He had a pre-draft visit too. Bottom line, these visits matter. The Eagles treat them like crucial pieces of the puzzle, and we're seeing that approach continue this year. Out of the 9 first-round picks the team has made since 2016, 7 came from players who visited. That stat alone should have every Eagles fan paying close attention to who's coming through Philly in the days leading up to the draft. And guess what? It doesn't stop there. In the last 2 drafts alone, 9 of the 10 players selected had pre-draft visits. That's not a coincidence. That's strategy. So let's keep going. When we dig into what Philly's been doing in recent years, there's a clear pattern, and it's not just about the pre-draft visits. The Eagles also heavily rely on something called the Relative Athletic Score, or RAS, to guide their decisions. If you're new to this, it's a metric that ranks athletes from 0 to 10 based on physical testing. Things like 40-yard dash, shuttle drills, vertical leap, height, weight, and so on. The higher the score, the more elite the athletic profile. And guess what? Philly loves high RAS guys. Since the year 2020, the Eagles have only taken 1 player in the first 4 rounds who scored under an 8 on the RAS scale. 1. Just 1. From 2022 on, they've drafted 18 guys that met the score criteria, and 17 of those hit 8 or above. That's consistency. That's commitment to a philosophy. And when you combine that with the emphasis on face-to-face meetings, you start to see exactly how this front office operates. Looking specifically at the last 2 drafts, every single one of Philly's top 3 picks in both years had pre-draft visits and elite RAS scores. That means when we try to predict their moves in the upcoming draft, we're not flying blind. We've got real clues. We know they're targeting athletic freaks who've met the staff and shown they can handle the pressure. Now, heading into this year's draft, there's a group of 11 prospects that check both boxes. They've got a RAS score of at least 8, and they've either already visited Philly or are reported to be on the list. These are names to watch closely. First up, Donovan Jackson from Ohio State. He's listed as an offensive tackle, but most scouts believe he's going to play guard in the NFL. Then there's Jalen Travis from Iowa State, another offensive lineman who shows real versatility. Josh Connolly has looked solid on tape as a tackle, especially in games against powerhouse programs like Penn State. Then there's Abdul Carter, who absolutely stood out in the Big Ten championship and comes from Oregon, a school that's been producing high-level talent consistently. On the defensive front, TJ Sanders is a name that keeps surfacing. He's capable of playing inside as a defensive tackle or sliding out to the edge if needed, but all signs point to him being a disruptive interior force. Then you've got Donovan Ezeruaku from South Carolina. His RAS score might not be off the charts, but the tape tells a different story. This guy is productive and relentless. Tyler Barron is another intriguing option, an edge rusher from Miami who's made a name for himself in the ACC. The linebacker pool also offers a few prospects that fit the Eagles' mold. Kobe King from Penn State managed to barely clear the RAS threshold, but he's got instincts and toughness that Philly tends to gravitate toward. Then there's Maxwell Hairston, a lightning-fast cornerback from Kentucky who ran a 4.3 flat at the Combine, serious speed. Jacob Parrish from Kansas State is also on the radar. He's a bit undersized, which could push him into a nickel role, but his explosiveness and instincts make him a candidate for early playing time. Trey Amos out of Mississippi brings that same electric speed, clocking somewhere between 4.3 and 4.4. And then there's Jalen Reed from Penn State, a safety who's been on draft radars for a while and could be a fit if the Eagles decide to double down at the position. With this many options who've either visited the team or matched the athletic profile, it's safe to say Philly's got their board narrowed down more than people think. And here's the kicker. Other teams are starting to catch on. The Eagles aren't broadcasting their every move like they used to. In fact, this year's pre-draft visit list has been unusually quiet. We've only confirmed about 23 or 24 of their top 30 visits. And that silence? It's by design. This front office knows that success in the draft isn't just about being smarter. It's about being sneakier. They've seen how patterns become public and how other teams adjust. So now, they're keeping their cards closer to the chest. But if you've been tracking their methods, you can still follow the breadcrumbs. Coach Nick Sirianni being present at the Combine this year wasn't just for show. He's hands-on. He wants to see how these guys move, how they talk, how they carry themselves. These aren't just physical evaluations, they're job interviews. The Eagles want to know if a player fits the locker room, if they bring the energy, the mindset, the leadership they crave. That kind of cultural fit matters just as much as a 40-yard dash or a vertical jump. That's why pre-draft visits aren't just a formality in Philadelphia. They're a critical part of the evaluation. From the second a player steps into the building, everything is being assessed. How they greet staff, how they handle pressure questions, how they talk football. It all gets logged, discussed, analyzed. Because once the pick is made, the team is committing not just to the player, but to the person. And looking back at Philly's recent draft history, the strategy has paid off. They've been targeting elite players from powerhouse programs, guys who played in big-time games under the brightest lights. That experience, combined with athleticism and the right attitude, has helped the Eagles stay competitive year after year, even as the roster evolves. So as we inch closer to draft night, keep your eyes on those high RES guys who made it to Philly for a visit. History tells us there's a good chance at least one of them is going to be wearing midnight green come fall. And with the way this front office operates, you can bet they got their sights set on someone who checks all the boxes, on paper, on tape, and in person. That's why the draft isn't just about talent. It's about fit. It's about projection. It's about putting together the kind of roster that doesn't just make the playoffs, but wins it all. And this year, the Eagles have a real shot to add another cornerstone piece to an already dangerous squad. Now stay tuned, because coming up, we're going even deeper into potential trade scenarios, who the Eagles might leapfrog to get their guy, and what it means for the rest of the NFC. You don't want to miss what's next. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep delivering the latest updates on our Philadelphia Eagles. And don't be shy. Share your thoughts on the news in the comments below. Could Tyreek Hill be suiting up for the Philadelphia Eagles next season? It's a question that has taken over the rumor mill, sending waves of excitement through fans and analysts alike. As one of the most explosive players in the NFL, Hill's name has frequently been tossed around in trade speculation, and the prospect of him joining the Eagles seems to ignite the imagination of the NFL community. With the Dolphins failing to make the playoffs in 2024, Hill's frustration was palpable, and his cryptic social media post only added fuel to the fire. Could Philly, with its Super Bowl aspirations, be the landing spot for the speedster? A potential move to the Eagles would create a dynamic offensive force that could rival any in the league. With quarterback Jalen Hurts continuing to develop as a top-tier signal caller and the Eagles' receiving core already boasting talent like A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith, Hill's presence would undoubtedly take this offense to another level. His speed, elusiveness, and ability to stretch the field vertically would open up even more opportunities for Hurts to exploit defenses. If the Eagles are serious about going all in for the next championship, Hill could be the game-changing piece they need to push them over the top. Hill's resume speaks for itself. A Super Bowl champion, perennial Pro Bowler, and first-team All-Pro selection, his ability to take over a game is unmatched. He was the NFL's leader in receiving yards in 2023, racking up 1,799 yards and 13 touchdowns. Hill's speed, his ability to make defenders miss, and his elite route running make him one of the most dangerous wide receivers to ever play the game. His numbers with the Dolphins, despite their disappointing season, are a testament to his individual brilliance, and that's exactly the kind of player the Eagles need to elevate their offense even further. However, adding Hill to the Eagles' roster wouldn't come without its challenges. The Dolphins' recent struggles aside, Hill is still under contract with Miami, and any trade would likely require significant draft compensation and possibly some reshuffling of contracts. But with Philadelphia's established talent pool and the franchise's willingness to make bold moves, such as last year's acquisition of A.J. Brown, this is a trade the Eagles should at least entertain. After all, with Hill's contract situation seemingly up in the air and his public frustrations with Miami, the stars may align for a move sooner than expected. Tyreek Hill's playing style is a blend of raw speed, elite acceleration, and unteachable instincts that make him a nightmare for any defense. Nicknamed the Cheetah for a reason, Hill can go from zero to top speed in a heartbeat, often leaving defenders flat-footed or taking poor angles in pursuit. What sets Hill apart from other speedsters is how he controls that pace. He knows when to burst, when to decelerate, and how to manipulate defensive backs into giving him space. His ability to turn a short screen pass into a 70-yard touchdown is unmatched, making him not just a deep threat, but a weapon on every inch of the field. Unlike many wide receivers who rely purely on size or power, Hill plays with a low center of gravity and elite body control. This allows him to change direction effortlessly, giving him the edge in yards-after-catch situations. He doesn't need a perfect route to create separation. His footwork, timing, and sudden cuts make even the best corners look ordinary. Defensive coordinators often have to game plan specifically for Hill, using double coverage or deep zone shells, yet he still finds a way to break free. His presence alone changes how defenses align, opening up opportunities for his teammates even when the ball doesn't come his way. Hill also possesses a strong understanding of the game's nuances, often exploiting defensive lapses or mismatches with surgical precision. He reads coverages pre-snap, adjusts routes on the fly, and has built great chemistry with his quarterbacks over the years. Whether he's working out of the slot, lining up outside, or even taking the occasional jet sweep, Hill forces defenses to stay honest on every down. That versatility is part of what makes him such a valuable asset. He's not just fast. He's smart, adaptable, and incredibly difficult to predict. What's more, Hill's experience as a return specialist early in his career helped develop his vision and spatial awareness, traits that still serve him well as a receiver. He knows how to navigate through traffic, make defenders miss in tight spaces, and find daylight where others see congestion. If the Eagles were to acquire him, they'd not only get a top-tier receiver, but also a player who understands how to flip momentum in an instant. In a league where one play can change the course of a game, Tyreek Hill remains one of the few players truly capable of creating magic out of nothing. As rumors swirl, one thing is clear. Tyreek Hill in an Eagles uniform would completely reshape the NFC landscape. The question is no longer whether the Eagles can land Hill, but whether the Dolphins will entertain moving him. Eagles fans, hold your breath. The Cheetah may be headed to the city of brotherly love, and if that happens, the entire NFC East will be put on notice. The suspense is killing us. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay updated with exclusive news about our Philadelphia Eagles, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. We can't wait to hear your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next video.